Today on Hear Them Out with Hannah Mears, I am here with Emmy award-winning producer and director for NFL Films, Miss Shannon Furman. Shannon, how are you?
I'm doing well. How about yourself?
I'm great. I couldn't be happier to see your shining face this morning. Always great. Shannon's a Penn Stater as well, so we bond a lot talking about Penn State and Penn State football. And during football games, Shannon's constantly texting me, freaking out. So she might be one person you actually might not want to watch a football game with. Contrary to popular belief, she'll actually make you super nervous, but it's fine. But Shannon got up and did her hair this morning, so I'm gonna go ahead and acknowledge the fact that you look beautiful.
Thank you for giving me a reason to do my hair.
You're welcome. And I actually think it's funny though, because your hair is blonde, and during quarantine,
maybe. I don't know what it is anymore.
It looks nice though, but during quarantine, everyone's been going through this like pink phase, and Shannon started the pink phase before quarantine. So I just want to give you the credit there.
Thank you. I've actually contemplated. I have the shampoo still from when it was pink, and I'm like, should I just wash my hair with it and see what happens? But I decided it would be better to not do that.
I like the pink hair though. It was different. It was fun, and you actually didn't look like a clown with it or anything. You looked really pretty. So
thank you.
You could pull it off. I couldn't pull that off, I don't think, but you did a great job at it. But Shannon is amazing at what she does. She's a producer and director at NFL Films, works mainly on the shows Hey Rookie, Welcome to the NFL, and Hard Knocks, probably what you're most popularly known for. And Hey Rookie was done so differently this year due to the pandemic, unfortunately. And I know that's always a show that I really look forward to watching every year. It's really fun to see guys that have worked so hard, and you kind of get a feel of who they are as people, who they are as athletes, and then get to see the transition into the NFL at the end, which is always just such a rewarding process. But this year, it was done so differently. And I know as a producer and director, going into a show that you've done countless times, it's almost like just repeating it over and over again. It's like, oh, we got this, it'll be a breeze. But how difficult was the transition from a show this year? And, how different was it?
Yeah, it was very different. It was, it changed daily. We kept kind of holding out hope that maybe we could still do it the same. We were actually in a really good place when all of this started. So the show is normally 4 half-hour episodes. And at the time when our building was kind of shut down, we had our first 2 episodes were done. So they were edited, they were roughed out. So we knew we had the content for those. And then, we were shooting show 3 that week. We had 3 shoots scheduled because we were going to pro days. We had actually already been to 1 pro day because Auburn's was very early. And so basically 3 shoots were canceled that week. We had heard that maybe they would reschedule them for later. So we kind of held out hope until we got into April, and it was like, okay, yeah, pro days aren't happening now. So we wanted to come up with a plan, and we knew that we already had a ton of content. It was almost a matter of figuring out if the draft is happening and then how we would cover that. So, yeah, it was kind of nuts. We basically got together with ESPN and decided to do an hour-long special as opposed to doing the 4 half-hour shows. And I talked with all of the different players about videoing their journey themselves. Again, we held out hope that maybe we could cover draft day, but decided better against doing that. And thank you to KJ's mom, because she was like our savior.
Yes.
Hopefully all the people of Denver now love Tanya. But yeah, even with and everyone was different. Every situation with every guy was a little bit different, because we did get to go to Derek Brown's pro day. I didn't need quite as much from him, but we did think it was still interesting to find out what these guys are doing right now and how different it is. So, with KJ, I was able to almost direct his mom over the phone. She would send me videos, I'd give her input and stuff. And it was easier with some guys than it was with others. But at the end of the day, we still got to include every single guy in the show. And on draft day, we kind of nominated a person from each camp to cover each guy's draft day experience. And that was how we were able to still, when you look at the content time of our show, it's we have 47 minutes and 30 seconds of content, and the draft block was 15 minutes long still. So it's not like we were lacking for content that day. And I think it's still, it was what we were all going through at the time. So we were happy with how it came out, and I was really happy we were able to still put a show on.
Yeah, it was great too. The episode was phenomenal. I almost it's sad because the 4 episodes that you usually have, you get to see a lot more of who these players are at home, how they interact, like that fun content. But I think you guys did a wonderful job of capturing them as people. And then, you know, the most important part of was the draft, and you did a great job at doing that. And props to the editors and people who had to go back in and change from the 2 episodes that are already done. I'm sure that's so discouraging to be like, oh my gosh, like we have to start from square one all over again. So
yeah,
we
we had the woman who cut the like intro to the whole show. I think she cut it like 3 or 4 different times. Like I got to a point where I was like, her name's Angela. I was like, Angela, just wait, like wait
Right.
until the week before till we actually know what's happening, because she did so many different versions of it as things kept changing. And so like, yeah, everyone had to just kind of keep adjusting and figuring out kind of how to like, we ended up having to take a lot of good content and making it shorter, because obviously the first 2 shows were the length of what
Right.
one whole show ended up being. So
Yeah, and I just want to add here too that the 4 athletes that were selected this year, Jerry Jeudy, of a wide receiver out of Alabama, KJ Hamler, wide receiver from Penn State, Andrew Thomas from Georgia, he's an offensive tackle, Derek Brown from Auburn, defensive tackle. So those were the 4 guys that were covered. All were drafted. Derek Brown went to the Panthers, Andrew Thomas to the Giants, KJ Hamler and Jerry Jeudy both to the Broncos, which I'm sure was an interesting spin as well.
It's crazy.
When you're going into picking these athletes, I just want to get more of the traditional sense of, hey, rookie out there for everybody. What's the process going into choosing the athletes that are going to be showcased in Hey Rookie?
Yeah, a lot of times it comes from past relationships, to be honest with you. I have relationships with different agencies, because when you're doing the show before the draft, you're relying on the agencies and the marketing people to kind of help you and trust you with the access. And so I oftentimes go back to a lot of people who have worked with me before and trust me. And I also trust them that like they know what the process is going to be like, and they're going to give me the access I need to tell a good story. But that being said, like I have people that start like pitching me guys like as soon as the bowl season ends, like it happens kind of fast and furious, like in about a 2-week span, where you find out kind of who's being repped by who, where they're training, and you try to still divide the show up so that you have like at least one defensive guy, one offensive guy. I'd like them to come from different conferences. This year we were heavy SEC, but still got our Big Ten guy in there, obviously. I love featuring Penn State guys. I think a lot of them know who I am from my relationship with the program, and so we always get like great access with them. So yeah, it's worked out. We've had a Penn State guy, I think something like 5 of the last 6 years. Not just because of me,
right?
It does help.
they've been some great guys, and especially this year, like KJ is an absolute personality, and he definitely stole a lot of the spotlight in that episode for sure, just because of the person he is and his family is. And I absolutely loved all of the content coming from his mom. Like you said, thank God for her. Like if she's not a superstar right now, I don't know who is, but she's definitely could have her own show to herself. I would love to see something like that. But how were the guys with their, I guess, handling them mentally, because pro days being canceled and really not being able to go and meet with teams in person, and then the draft process? How was handling probably their emotions while still trying to get content out of them? I'm sure that had to have been a bit of a challenge.
Yeah, it wasn't easy. It wasn't as easy as I thought it would probably be in the very beginning. It's like, you know, people have like college students, their Instagram accounts are a big part of their lives. So it was kind of like, well, it's just like that. But then like at the end of the day, it's not really just like an Instagram story. You're trying to actually tell a linear story. So trying to get them to understand like what it takes to make a good show. And it was hard, and it'd be a lot easier if I had to do it again, but it was a learning process for me too. So just trying to make sure everyone understood. It actually got to a point where I took some of the content that Tanya, KJ's mom, gave me and edited that together for everyone else to kind of see, like, this is what it looks like this is what would work. So I kind of outlined things for them. I would give them talking points to do in their interviews. But I also tried not to take up a ton of their time, because I knew that they were being asked by everyone to Zoom and do FaceTime interviews and all kinds of things that I, quite frankly, didn't even understand at the time. So I really tried to make sure I wasn't asking them for too much. I think, like, for the most part, the 4 guys in our show seemed to handle it really well. And they didn't know anything else, to be honest with you. Like, this is what they knew this year, and so they did the best they could with it. Someone like KJ, I think, probably might have like suffered the most from it because he didn't get a chance to run at the combine, and he is the kind of guy that could have ran in the 4.2s and really like put him up into the first round of the draft. But at the end of the day, like, he understood that, like, I mean, he's very like, this is God's plan and he's going to make the most of it. So they were all great. I mean, we really loved working with all 4 guys, and they were all very different.
No, so different, but that's what makes the show really special. But all of them actually, every time they were on screen, you know, it seemed like it was fun to watch them. There wasn't anybody where you were like, oh no, like, what's he gonna say now? I thought they were all fun. And was it Andrew Thomas who was putting together the piano?
Yes.
Do we know how long it actually took him to put together the piano?
Okay, so fun fact, they didn't even end up putting together the piano. I told him I wouldn't rat him out, but I feel like enough time has passed that I will rat him out. Hannah, who is the DP of my show, she put together their piano.
No, she didn't.
She did. She actually has the same one. So when we walked in and we like saw what we were doing, she kind of looked at me and was like, I just bought this piano a couple of weeks ago. And when they started at first it was almost like we weren't even going to film them putting it together. And then I looked at her and I was like, this might be funny. We should shoot this. Like, it shouldn't just be Andrew playing the piano. Like, originally was the scene, was Andrew playing the piano. Like, that was what it was going to be. I didn't know if it was put together or not. But then, and Solomon is crazy. And we had seen that earlier in the day that Solomon Kinley from from Georgia, him and Andrew went back, like, they had a whole story that we weren't able to get into, but during the day their interaction was really funny, so I knew he was going to be funny at the house that night too.
Just their interactions, like being together or like with you guys?
Their interactions together. He brought out the best in Andrew's personality, Solomon. He kind of like made him like relaxed and would joke with him. And even at the combine they were doing it. I don't remember if some of these moments even got taken out of the show now, but he definitely, the 2 of them together were quite the duo. So yeah, I was happy that we ended up putting the piano together. And I think we let them go about maybe 20 to 25 minutes. And then I was like, okay, stop recording. Let's help them now. So then Hannah jumped in and helped them, and it got put together in like 5 minutes. And we shot the scene we really intended to shoot.
Oh my gosh. So many people I feel like now are going to give him so much crap. So like, I hope the Giants do. I hope people from the Giants see this and like ask him to put together things now. But he's good. He's a good musician though. Like, I think that's so cool that he was in the band, and I really think it's awesome that he was able to showcase that side of him.
Yeah, I mean, drums are actually what he grew up playing, and we had a whole shoot planned with him. Like, we were supposed to go down to Georgia and meet his family, and we were going to do a whole thing with him, like revolving around like his history playing the drums. So we didn't get to do that, but I have a feeling in his NFL career, which I am hoping for Saquon and for him and for everyone is going to be a very long and successful one. We will be seeing lots of features with Andrew Thomas playing the drums and things like that, because he is a very talented guy.
That's exciting. I hope to be there for that, because I would love to see him set up some more equipment, and more importantly though, see him actually get to play some, because hopefully it's better than his construction skills there. But then you also had on the show, which was pretty interesting, like Derek Brown got to have like a little bit of a baby reveal, which seemed really important to him. So I guess there were some special family moments that ended up getting to be captured.
Yeah, that was another thing. Like you said, this stuff that we missed from having the 4 episodes is like some of the personality and meeting their families. We had those shoots planned in their hometowns. Like with Derek, we were supposed to go to his hometown and meet his son Kai and like do some stuff with him, which I'm sure on those shoots we would have found out that he was expecting another. Mm-hmm. I was glad that Kai came to Pro Day, so we did get to see him, because he is one of the cutest little kids I've ever seen in my life. So we did get a quick moment with him, but again, we had a bigger shoot planned where he was going to be spending the day with Kai and kind of showing us what it's like to be a dad. So I'm glad we got
to where Kai left him a little present in a diaper, like as soon as he saw him, which is the funny part. It's like, oh, this is real life.
Yep, exactly. Because I think he may have seen him earlier that morning, but Derek's Pro Day was so early on that I think he had been away from his son for almost like 2 months at that point. So it was pretty real, like that this was like one of their first times being reunited. So, and he was definitely, just in the brief time I was around them, you could tell how much he loved his dad. He did not want to be separated from his dad.
That's so exciting. You can see then it really captured, I guess, something that you didn't show on screen, but the sacrifices that these athletes do have to make at times to be away from their families. So, you know, what I always said during this whole pandemic and everything was like, it really did give a lot of people an opportunity to appreciate being with their families again, or realize what it's like to have to, you know, go home and be with your family. So hopefully he got to be able to take advantage of that at least. And then I have to tell you something I think you're going to find funny. The interaction with Jerry Judy and KJ Hamler at the end of the show, when they're just like on FaceTime talking back and forth. When KJ's talking about the mountain, a couple of years back, my brother went to school in Colorado and I went out there and we hiked Mount St. Mary's Glacier. And I was blown away because I was like, there were people at the top of the mountain skiing and I was cliff jumping like into this lake. And so I'm like in a swimsuit cliff jumping while people are skiing. And so when
you gave him his info.
Yes. when KJ, he called me a couple of days later, you know, we'd gone to Penn State. When he got there, we were really close because he was young. We met up on campus and it was just sort of a transition kind of thing, like helped him transition into Penn State, you know, classes. We had a little group of people who were just awesome. So I was always rooting for KJ and his family. They were always so nice. So KJ calls me a couple days after, you know, his phone was done blowing up and we just had a conversation and I let him know I was proud of him. And I asked him like all about like, did you even expect going to Denver, like everything? And he's like, no, like I honestly had no idea. He's like, I had talked to them once kind of thing. He was really surprised. And I said, you're going to love it. I said, Denver, I was like, you need to be open to an opportunity because Denver is beautiful. You're going to love the mountains. And I said, and I told him the story about Mount St. Mary's Glacier. And I was like, there's people skiing and then people jumping and stuff. Like, it's just things that you need to experience in your life. Like, all aside from football, like, go experience, like, this beautiful place. And so when I saw that happening, I was like, oh my gosh, like, and I'm actually going to Colorado too, like this upcoming week. My brother's moving out there. So I can't wait to like find a bunch of things, be like, KJ, like you have to go here.
That's great. Yeah. I mean, as crazy as this is going to sound, like that was probably my favorite part of the whole show was that,
no.
Yeah. Like, I mean, the whole like Zoom call at the end, which like, I almost like was like, we cut the show and like we had plenty of content. Like at first it was like, oh my gosh, are we gonna have enough content? Yep. And then when we realized that we had enough, I was like, should I cancel this? And then I was like, they both seemed excited to do it. Like I knew that KJ and Jerry had a relationship from the first time I met Jerry, because we filmed with Jerry pretty early on in January. And when we filmed with him, he had asked me, he knew I told him I went to Penn State, and he asked me if any Penn State players were going to be in the show. And I told him I wasn't sure yet because we didn't have KJ on board yet. And he told me we usually get KJ Hamler. And I was like, maybe we will. Like, I don't know. Like, I'll let you know if we do. So I knew that, and then KJ had told me, obviously he knew Jerry was in the show. So I knew there was a relationship there. So that made it easy to kind of like reach out to the two and ask if they wanted to talk to each other. And they were both like super into it. And it was kind of funny because at first I told them both, I was like, I kind of just want you guys to talk. Like, I don't want to interview you. I want you guys to just like, we want to be a fly on the wall. And like, but just to get them started, I did like throw out a couple questions, and I was kind of sitting there like, this is not funny, me asking them questions. And so at the end I said like, okay, now you guys just talk. And like, that was what ensued.
It was
and there's
awesome.
So much more. Like it could have been 3 minutes.
I really hope that like that gets released at a later date. Maybe if they're like making big plays in the NFL together, and then there's all these things about the conversation. Or I would love to see a like before thoughts of Denver, how they think Bears are just going to be like walking in their house. Like, I don't know what they think Colorado is, but that's what they think. And then like their opinion after the fact, because I think it's going to be very different and so funny to hear. And they're probably going to look at themselves and be like, wow, we sounded the Broncos did a great job with their social media too. They put out some really funny like memes and stuff the next day. It was kind of funny to watch it all play out. Yeah, that's awesome. They're going to be really exciting to watch in Denver. I'm really excited for both of them. But like you were saying with like funny moments, were there any moments of Hey Rookie that you wish everyone could see? Are there any bloopers that were going on in the background that you would love to release one day?
I mean, that mainly probably happened with KJ. But like I said, like the phone call could have been another 3 minutes and you would have been completely entertained. The cooking scene with KJ was originally like, I think the first edit of it was like 5 minutes long. And I was like, yeah, there's no, but it was funny the whole time. It was never not funny. So, and we knew when we were there that night, I mean, he made croissants. He made he just kept going. So yeah, like that could have been much longer too. And the piano scene too, obviously, could have been longer. We used we tried to get, like, whenever we do like an off the field shoot with guys, we try to like use it. I don't like, wasting people's time, I guess. So even if it is just like a short amount, we try to at least put it into the show. But there was some stuff, even from when we shot the open, guys making funny faces and everything. So we probably should put together a blooper reel. We usually do that, but we're a little understaffed right now at home, so didn't have a chance to put one out. But there's always some really funny moments. But I would say most of them probably involved KJ this year.
I think it would honestly be hilarious. I think NFL film bloopers should be just like a social media piece that you guys do every so often. Like, I think it's just funny, like in production, there are so many scenes, like if you're searching through footage and going through things to put stuff together, like you see so many things where you're like, I can't use this, but I wish the world could see it because it's hilarious. Yeah. And you get to really see these players just as in their personalities, and that's what people on social media want to see. So I think that would be really fun. I think it's something you guys should look into. I would tune in.
Yeah, no, I mean, we usually do. We usually do a bloopers reel at the end. So yeah, maybe we'll look into that once the season starts back up and these guys start having big plays and things like that. We'll bring it back.
Yeah, be like, while he's making big plays, look at what he was doing here, right? No, it was great though. I thought it was so much fun to watch, and you guys did a phenomenal job. I commend everybody who was able to take, something that's supposed to be for a 4-episode series and put it into one. It still captured all the awesome moments, despite the challenges. And thank God for social media and technology and, everybody with a camera at their hands. So definitely probably made your job a lot easier in that transition.
Yeah, I was just happy. Hey Rookie's my favorite. I mean, Hard Knocks might be the most popular show that we do, but Hey Rookie is my favorite show to do. I love Draft Day. I love Draft Day more than I love Super Bowl. So I was happy we were able to still put something on the air. And another thing that actually was very different this year that was a blessing in disguise was normally we don't do the open of the show until pro days. And also in the past, we've done one big sit down interview, and that also usually happens at the pro day. And this year I decided just something stylized different I wanted to do was that we were going to do interviews on all of our shoots so that we could try to keep a uniform interview look in each show. So we didn't have different interview looks popping up in each show, which is fine. Just a pet peeve of mine. But so we did do more of a formal sit down at both of their first 2 shoots that the guys did. So I had info that if this was last year, I wouldn't have had these guys talking about their background stories, anything like that. So we did that this year, and then we decided to film the open at the Combine, which I don't know why I never thought to do that before, because, I mean, it was still difficult because the Combine, as you know, you've worked at it, they're getting pulled in 25 different directions, and there's no schedule. So we basically were on call for 2 days at the Combine. It was kind of whenever you can come for 30 minutes so we can do this. But it ended up making our show look so much more polished and professional. Whereas I'm not saying, I think we still would have done a show if we didn't do that, but I have no idea
what it would have looked like.
Yeah, I'm not sure. So we still got to give the show a look this year. And I mean, and we were excited about the open. So we were kind of is this gonna never be seen? And we'll just try it again next year. So we were pretty happy that we still got to put something out there.
No, it was cool. It was a different look. I always look forward to the open. Ever since I went and visited NFL Films, I went and visited Shannon there and got a little bit of a tour of what was going on. And it was, I think when the Hard Knocks episode was being edited in Tampa Bay. And I got to see the little bit of a process of the coloring and editing that went into that, and just the little details of a water droplet in this. And I thought it was so cool to see the process. And then at the end, get to see that in the show. So I always look forward to the open, and then I got to see a little bit of Hey Rookies open with Saquon being filmed. So it's funny to see it and then like really see it on TV.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought it was a cool, different look this year. And thank goodness you guys did do a little more, do things differently that ironically helped later.
Yeah, no, it was good. Hannah, again, my
Yes.
DP, not
Yes.
you.
She's amazing. No, she's awesome too.
Yeah, we just have said so many times to each other, like, I don't know what made us do the open and the interviews ahead of time, but like, we're glad we did.
Yeah, blessing in disguise.
Yes.
But you also talked about one of your more popular shows, Hard Knocks.
Mm-hmm.
And I know now that you guys have probably been sitting down having a lot of discussions about what ifs and situations where you might end up doing stuff similar to how Hey Rookie was done. Have there been discussions and meeting about Hard Knocks? Where does it stand at this moment?
Yeah, we're still planning on doing the show this year. We have a meeting, basically we have a meeting every Monday where we talk about different scenarios and how we can do things. And honestly, like it changes by the hour. I mean, last week I remember like discussing some things like how we're going to do it, like whatever team it is, being part of their bubble, doing this. And then like, we're not going to be able to shoot till training camp because it doesn't seem like players are coming back till training camp. And then like at 5 p.m. they said coaches might return next week. And it was like, oh, well, and maybe there's going to be a mini camp now. So like, we're just kind of trying to stay on our toes and be ready for like we have talked about every scenario that could possibly happen. So I think there's definitely going to be a show at this point. Hopefully we'll know more information soon, but we're definitely preparing as if it's all going to happen and talking through any possible situation that like we could do to make this work, to make it easier on the teams, to make it easy on us so that we're keeping our crews safe, we're keeping the team safe. There's been a lot of things that I never in my wildest dreams would have believed we'd be talking about, but
Right.
Everyone's kind of trying to just be as prepared as possible for when the time comes.
Do you feel that you're like more prepared for this now and maybe like lessons learned from Hey Rookie, or how do you think this show might change indefinitely because of this?
Yeah, I think we definitely have a better expectation of like if we did have to do anything with like Zoom or cell phone media. I think with the way things are going right now, we're hoping that 99% of the show can be done in person and with our real cinematographers. But we are talking about like if they're having training camp meeting or not training camp, like mini camp OTA meetings via Zoom, that we might want to capture some of that stuff or have the teams help us do some of that. Or even like if the coaches do end up coming back like next week or within the next couple of weeks, we're going to probably rely heavy on like the team's own video staffs to help us do some things like that, because we're kind of assuming at this point that we won't see anyone until training camp. So yeah, like we've seen how Zoom can be effective at keeping people informed and just it's what everyone's going through right now. So I think we know our options and we kind of know how players are with using Zoom and things like that. So I would say that it's definitely helped us kind of at least like start preparing for Hard Knocks.
I know I've talked to you so many times about the shows and the things that go on behind the scenes and the funny moments that happen that, you know, the process isn't always pretty. So what are some of your favorite and I guess most memorable moments of Hard Knocks that most people don't get to see? I want to know the behind the scenes moments.
Oh, I mean, my favorite moments at Hard Knocks are honestly like working with the crew, like working with our crew. We're like a family out there. And I mean, for as like stressed as we get at times, like we all wouldn't have it any other way. We love doing it. Probably one of the best things, which some of the teams have captured this, like we have an audio guy named Steve Gershio. He's from Cleveland. So he loved doing the Browns Hard Knocks because that was his team and his hometown, his family was there, but he does breakdowns for us. So we're just like a little team too. So after we do our morning meeting, Steve will do a breakdown and give us a pep talk and everyone looks forward to this. In Cleveland, he did like a raffle. So every day there was like a little prize given away that had something to do with the city of Cleveland.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And we loved it so much that when we went to Oakland last year, like the directors, we were like, that brought up morale like so much, like Steve doing that. So like we wanted to like keep doing that. So we did like a thing called Grit and Grinders last year, where when someone did something like above and beyond their job, we give out like a little prize. And it was kind of like, we didn't do it every day, but we would try to surprise people here and there. And like, we made a board kind of like how John Gruden used to have the trailer at Monday Night Football for his Gruden grinders. And we would like Velcro people's like headshots up on the board. So we tried to keep things fun and keep it light for people. But yeah, it's like a family there, like working on the show. We all love it. I mean, I've been like talking to our freelance people and stuff. Everyone's been asking like, I hope we see you. Like everyone wants to come back and work on the show. So yeah, fingers crossed that everything will start to become a little bit more normal and we'll all get to be reunited again this summer somewhere.
Yeah. No, that's so fun though, because those production days and filming, it's long hours. Like what people don't see is just the sleepless nights and the changes of things, or maybe things not working out the way you wanted it to, and big personalities to work with. Yes. I'm sure is probably one of the biggest challenges. Who do you think some of the biggest personalities are that you've worked with in your career? And maybe even you can tie in if it was at Hard Knocks or not, but just in your career in general.
Yeah, I mean, well, like I had to deal with Antonio Brown last summer. So whether you love him or hate him, he is probably one of the biggest personalities I've ever dealt with. So that was, I mean, it feels like a lifetime ago right about now that I like was in a hot air balloon with Antonio Brown, but it was really less than a year ago. So that was a thing like last summer. I keep saying that whatever team we do this year, can we please just have like no player that leaves camp? Because like the past 2 years, that's been something I've been responsible for. Was like with the Browns, it was Josh Gordon's return to camp. And then last year was kind of everything that was happening with Antonio. So I was like, all I want this year is 90 players that are like in camp and there every day. So I'm not like on the lookout in the middle of the night for someone sneaking into camp. But yeah, I mean, but as far as Antonio was great to us, there was definitely drama that everyone saw play out, but he was most of the time fun to work with and a huge personality. In Tampa, Gerald McCoy was like the best.
Really?
He's like shows up day one in a kimono and like, I mean, everyone's like, no, that's him. Every year, this is what he does on check-in day. He has a different costume and there's a look, but like with Gerald, like it's not an act. Like he's always on. He's crazy, but I mean, there's not a more likable guy in football than Gerald McCoy. So that was really fun to get to do that show with him in Tampa. Trying to think of some of the other teams. I mean, Baker Mayfield was obviously a character in a different way. He was a rookie, but like it was very natural.
Rookie stuff with him was so funny too. Yes. Like you getting to see Baker treated as a rookie, and it was hilarious. Like it was like you're the freshman on the team again. And it's funny because you don't get to see that in the NFL. You just think, once you're in the league, you're in the league, and you get to see like, no, like calm down, take it down a notch. You might have been a big shot there, but we're gonna bring you back down. And you guys captured that perfectly. It was so fun.
And he is pretty natural kind of. He is who he is. Like he's unapologetic, and like that's what I love about him. So I mean that was fun to work with him and kind of to do it early on in his career. My favorite coach that I've probably ever worked with on the show, who I would call as a character, he'd probably cringe if he heard me say that he's a character, is Bill O'Brien. When the Texans Hard Knocks was announced, I know people were like, oh, is this going to be boring? And I was like, no, it's not going to be boring. Like, I mean, as a Penn Stater, I knew who Bill was and I knew kind of like his coaching style. And again, it's authentic. Like, I mean, like I said, he'd probably hate to be called a character, but I knew he was going to be one of our best coaches. And I mean, I think like people probably would say Rex might be the best, but I mean, for me, Bill was just because of being a Penn Stater and like being around him, like his football knowledge and stuff, that for me was like awesome. And that was also my first Hard Knocks too, that I was like in the field for. Yeah. So I kind of knew like from the jump when people were like, oh, I don't know if this will be interesting. I was like, no, this is going to be
it's going to be great.
Yeah.
That's good though, that you had that like background to like comfort them and be like, this is going to be great. Mm-hmm. And I think a video that I keep seeing over and over and over again is the Saquon alligator scene. Like, I think that was something that's been put out like every day on a different, some sort of media on quarantine. Like, did you get to go up to the alligators? Were you there at that shoot?
Yes, I was there.
This was from Hey Rookie, but we're talking about personalities. So I had to mention this scene.
Yeah, no, I mean, this was probably once Saquon made it out of the alligator farm alive, it was probably one of my favorite things that we've ever done. It kind of happened, it was like kind of crazy because Saquon basically like told me he wanted to do this. I think it was like 9 p.m. on Friday night. And I was like, okay, how am I getting you and a camera crew into the alligator farm tomorrow morning, like on a Saturday? So I woke up early Saturday morning, drove to the alligator farm, and luckily there was staff there, which they said was not normal. I think they had some kind of a like corporate meeting. So I told them what we wanted to do, and they were great about it. They host guys for the Pro Bowl and things like that. So they had hosted Von Miller before, but so yeah, this was Saquon's idea. Don't you, and you wouldn't let him tell you different. Like,
Right.
like Shannon was throwing him to the alligators. His idea. And I mean, I was just like smiling the whole time. There's just like some shoots where you like know it's going to be gold and you like can't, your face hurts from smiling because you're just like, this is so ridiculous. But I mean, he was genuinely terrified at times. And
I can imagine. I would be.
I mean, there was a point where, and I don't even know, there was like a white alligator and it was huge. And like, my cameraman stepped over this alligator to like get in there and like do, and like afterwards we were talking, like Al was like, I stepped over like a gigantic alligator today, like to get the shot of Saquon.
So the cameraman's the real hero and Saquon's screaming and this cameraman's like in the alligator pit.
Yeah, like, so we were just like going back and thinking about it. It was like, and that was another scene similar to like KJ cooking that like we could have edited it to be 10 minutes long and you would have been completely entertained like the whole entire time. Like it was,
those make like episodes of reality TV show in themselves for sure.
Yeah, I mean even like just Saquon feeding the alligators portion where like it was insane. Like his one-liners were insane, like the whole thing. It's definitely one of my, it's definitely in my top 10 of moments from my career.
And I think everyone feels the same because of the amount of times you see that repeated on social media. It's never gonna go away. Like he's never gonna live being afraid of an alligator down ever in his life. So KJ's worried about bears and Saquon was worried about alligators. So but no, Shannon, you do an amazing job and I could sit here and talk to you for hours about moments and I'm sure you have so many more stories to tell. So hopefully we can make a sequel to this segment another day. But thank you so much for being here. I do want to end just by letting you say something. So from your opinion right now with your job, and you've been there for so many years and have experienced so many different things, what's the most rewarding part about working at NFL Films?
I mean, I love telling people stories. So that's what I miss most about like what's going on right now. Like this is the time of year where we'd be producing features, things that would air like this upcoming season. So hopefully we'll still have a chance once, you know, we're allowed to start traveling again to get out and like tell stories. So I had a couple of really cool features planned for this year that I'm really hoping to still be able to do. So I mean, yeah, that's definitely like my favorite part is letting people know a different side of athletes and getting to tell stories that people may have never heard before. So that is what I cannot wait to get back to doing.
I love that. That's sort of been my goal here during this quarantine as well, has been telling different sides of stories for different types of people. And I'm glad you got to showcase a little bit of who you are, put your face out there, because although you're behind the camera, you do a phenomenal job in making all those bits and pieces come together. Your shows were great. Hey Rookie was great, despite probably freaking out most of the time. I'm looking forward to Hard Knocks, and I can't thank you enough for being here with me today.
Thanks for having me. It was fun.
No problem. Anytime, seriously. Always enjoyable to have a fellow Penn Stater, and especially Miss Shannon Furman herself. So she's a star in the world and very well respected. So don't let her tell you otherwise. Everyone in the NFL that they say like, oh, you know, Shannon, like she's a rock star. She's awesome. So I'll brag about her as much as I can all the time. But thank you.
Same for you.
Oh, well, thank you. Thanks so much for being here, Shannon. This has been Hear Them Out with Hannah Mears.